Welcome back to the Dr. Jonette channel. Today we are making chocolate-coated Easter eggs, but these aren't your traditional Easter eggs. These eggs are energy bites, and they're loaded with things that are good for your brain and healthy for your gut as well. They are gluten-free, dairy-free, and make sure you watch all the way to the end. You aren't going to want to miss all of the things that are in these energy bars that will help your brain remember better, learn better, and may also prevent some of those degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. So let's get cooking and make some delicious, healthy Easter egg energy bars. So to our mixing bowl, I am adding 1 cup of my homemade granola. If you go to growwithdrjonette.com, you will be able to find the recipe for how to make granola, or you can just purchase any granola. And I like to, if you're purchasing it, purchase organic. And if you're gluten-free, make sure that it's also the oats in it are also gluten-free. In addition to the 1 cup of granola, I have 2/3 of a cup of ground coconut. Farmer Fred collects coconuts and we make our own dried coconut. But if you're purchasing it, purchase unsweetened organic coconut flakes and just pulse them a few times in your food processor. In addition to that, I'm adding flaxseed. By the way, the coconut is so great for your brain because it has MCTs, which is medium chain triglycerides. It's an alternate source of energy for your brain. And your brain is a huge energy user. And so this alternate source of energy for your brain is great because if your brain runs out of energy, isn't able to uptake the glucose that it needs, this is an alternate source of energy for it. I'm also adding 1/4 cup of flax seeds. Flax seeds are great probiotics. The probiotics help our resistant starches and fiber that's in the form of fiber in the flax seeds. So they help keep your gut healthy. So this is also a brain healthy as well as a gut healthy recipe. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. For my simplest smart tip, I have a measuring cup that's one of my favorites for measuring things that are sticky and hard to measure because they like to stick to your measuring cup, your measuring spoon, etc. This is what's called a wet, dry, push measuring cup. You basically pull the inside plunger down to where you want it, down to, I did first a 1/2 cup. I did a 1/2 cup of peanut butter, and then I did a 1/2 cup of walnut butter. It's really great because when I want to add that, it's a nice accurate 1 cup. When I want to add it to whatever I'm cooking, I just push the plunger down, scrape it off of the measuring cup, and voila, you have exactly 1 cup of, in this case, nut butters that I've just added to my recipe. You can see the 2 kind of separating. The walnut butter is a little runnier than the peanut butter. So but there's a 1/2 cup of each. If you go to my website at drjonette.com, you will be able to find a link there on this recipe that'll take you out to where you can purchase a similar product. If you found this information helpful so far, thank you for ringing that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my great brain healthy, gut healthy recipes as soon as I post them on the site. So to our mixing bowl, I want to also add about a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm gonna just pour it over the top here. I'm also adding 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips. These are the mini chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate chips. You could use just the regular sized one as well. I like the mini ones in this recipe. And 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to mix this all up. And this is a no-bake recipe. So once it's all mixed up, we're going to form our Easter eggs, and then we'll melt up some chocolate and dip our Easter eggs in the chocolate, and you'll have delicious, nutritious, brain healthy, gut healthy, fabulous Easter eggs for your Easter celebration. When it's all mixed up, it's about the consistency of cookie dough. It should stick together. It's a little on the crumbly side, but it should stick together well when you form your Easter eggs. Before we make our Easter eggs, let's talk about our Neuro-Nutrition Nugget. For today's Neuro-Nutrition Nugget, we are talking the top nut for our top nut up here for our brain. The top nut for our brain is walnuts. Walnuts are considered the top nut because they are highest in brain healthy nutrients. They are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which are important for oxidative stress as well as important for maintaining good brain health. And they also have another substance called polyphenols. Polyphenols are anti-inflammatory, and they help protect our body against oxidative stress and inflammation. Inflammation is one of those things that is a huge contributor to brain and cognitive decline. Inflammation, I call it actually inflammaging. Inflammaging is a pathway that destroys our brain cells, especially in our memory, our hippocampus memory and learning centers, and is a huge contributor to cognitive decline. So walnuts help protect our brain against inflammation because of the polyphenols that are in them, as well as other substances as well. They also are a good gut food in that they also are high in fiber and insoluble fiber. That is a food for our probiotics. Walnuts are considered a prebiotic food in that they contain food for our gut microbiome. So let's go ahead next and make our Easter eggs. To make our Easter eggs, I'm using 1 tablespoon scoop here, and I'm using a generous 1 tablespoon, so a little more than what fills the scoop. As you can see, there's a little bit more than a tablespoon. And I roll this dough into a ball, and then I use my hands to shape it into an egg shape for our Easter egg and place it on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. I'm going to take that cookie sheet and put it in the fridge once all of the eggs are formed, and let the dough chill just a little bit in the fridge while I melt the chocolate that we're going to dip them in. The chocolate helps the eggs stay all kind of compact together, as it will form like a shell on the eggs to keep them from falling apart. There you have it, all of our Easter eggs ready to, I'm going to pop them in the fridge and melt up some chocolate. Next, I'm going to chop up the dark chocolate for dipping our eggs in. I like to use cocoa, or I like to use dark chocolate that's at least 70% cocoa. The semi-sweet chocolate chips that were in the inside of the eggs that we used are not nearly that much cocoa content. They're about probably 40-45% cocoa only. But when I dip them in the dark chocolate, I like to use something with at least 70% cocoa. This is 90% cocoa, which a lot of people find this a little on the bitter side. However, I like it for this particular recipe because it counteracts the sweetness of the inside of the eggs. Even though I didn't add any additional refined sugars, the coconut was sweet. Well, even then the coconut was unsweetened. The maple syrup was sweet, and the maple syrup added a fair amount of sweetness to the inside of the eggs. In addition to that, the granola also was sweetened with maple syrup. So between the granola and the maple syrup, the eggs are plenty sweet and counteract what some people think of as bitterness of your real dark chocolate. I just like to chop the chocolate into smaller pieces. It makes it a little easier to melt. Also, when I melt the chocolate, I add for this amount of chocolate, which is about 7 ounces, I'm going to add probably a teaspoon or so of Crisco shortening, vegetable shortening. It helps the chocolate melt a little bit smoother and makes it easier, thins it out a little bit, makes it easier for us to dip our eggs in it. For melting chocolate, there are a couple of ways that you can melt the chocolate. You can melt it in a double boiler over warm water. Be very careful though, if you use that method, you don't get any water in your chocolate, as it will cause your chocolate to seize up. When your chocolate seizes up, you got to just throw it away because it turns grainy and you can't dip it. It just becomes a solid grainy mass of chocolate. It's still good. You could still eat it. Actually, you probably don't want to throw it away, but you could still eat it, but it's not going to work for dipping your eggs in. And so I like to use the microwave for melting my chocolate. I will melt it in 15 to 30-second intervals. I'll start with 30 seconds. I'll stir another 30 seconds, stir again. And then as it starts to get more melted, I will decrease the time to 15 seconds until it's a nice, smooth, dipping consistency. My chocolate's all melted and my eggs are ready to dip. As you can see, this is a nice, smooth, dippable consistency. This is kind of the consistency that you want your chocolate to be. What I like to do is I like to take and put the egg on a fork, and you can dip it down in like that, or I like to just kind of drizzle some of the chocolate on the top of the egg like that. Let it drain off a little bit, and then I just slide it right onto right back where it was, right onto the baking sheet. It makes a little bit of a mess, but not a big deal. The bottom doesn't necessarily have much chocolate on it. Once it's set up, I'll show you how much chocolate's on the bottom of them. And if it isn't completely smooth, that's fine as well. I've finished dipping them or coating all of them with chocolate, and before I pop them in the fridge though, I like to take some coconut that I've toasted up and chopped very, quite fine. Not as fine as what's inside of the eggs, but fairly fine, and sprinkle a little bit of it on top. Once you can see a number of the eggs are already starting to set up, and it doesn't stick as well once the eggs are set up. So I usually do a few eggs with some toasted coconut on top of them, and the rest of them I have some, probably a couple of ounces of chocolate left over still, and I will drizzle them with some chocolate. I think this one still has got enough, hasn't set up enough. We can add a little coconut to it as well. And now we're going to put them in the fridge and just let them set up. them in the fridge about a half hour until the chocolate is nice and firm. And then we'll do the next step and then they'll be done. I wanted to mention that as I was coating them with chocolate, I realized I didn't have quite enough chocolate. So I melted up another like 3 ounces of chocolate. I had a total of 10 ounces of chocolate that I used. If you go to my website at growwithdrjonette.com, you'll be able to find the whole recipe as well as pictures of my step-by-step process. Our eggs are the chocolate on our eggs are nicely set up now, and I've melted the rest of the chocolate that I had, and I'm going to put it in our parchment decorating cone. I quite often will put set the cone in a cup or something to keep it upright. It makes it much easier, because I need both hands to dump whatever it is or get whatever it is that I'm doing, especially when it's melted chocolate into the cone. So if I put it in a cup, it keeps it upright and keeps it from falling over. Now I'm going to go ahead and just fold the top over several times. It makes it so much easier to keep it shut. And then I'm going to staple it since I've got a stapler. And now I want to just cut an opening in it that will let me move that out of the way. The other thing that I do is I put whatever, when I'm drizzling something on, like on top of the Easter eggs like this, and some of it's going to go through and end up down on the surface below. Put a piece of parchment paper, and when you're done, then you just roll the parchment paper up. You can throw it away. And I also like to put it on a little grate, a cooling grate. And I'm going to we'll start with a fairly small hole here in our tip, and we'll see if we want something a little bit bigger. Go. And that's it. Now, if you like sea salt on chocolate, you could put some sea salt flakes on there, or some sprinkles if you want to put some colored sprinkles on there, since they're Easter eggs, whatever you prefer. And enjoy your Easter eggs. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I post my next video. Go to my website also at drjonette.com, and you'll be able to see this recipe, lots of other healthy, brain healthy, heart healthy, and gut healthy recipes for longevity and for keeping your body strong and healthy, your mind sharp and functioning throughout all the decades of your life. See you next time on the Dr. Jonette channel.